Hello guys, this is Max and my cup of tea as usual. It's Christmas time, and tonight I'm going to be doing some commentary on Chesto Nuts versus University of Southern Maine Chess Club. That is, Chesto Nuts is the nickname for King's College London B team, and this is in the 2020 World Online League, which is kindly organised by Peter Hornsby. So big shout out to him. The A team, which I play in, is currently doing very well. We're sitting in second. That's exciting. And the B team is doing slightly less well, but hoping to pick up some points tonight. And we're playing the University of Southern Maine, who've also been struggling. They both lost their first 2 rounds. And it looks like one of their players might not show up, so that could be an immediate walkover. We'll see what happens there. Anyway, the games are about to kick off. We have Pascal Fard on board one, followed by Oliver Grasby, and then Timo Huramadkar. Hopefully I pronounced your name correctly. Sorry, Timo, if I haven't. And then on board four, we have Jan Gronendijk, who is a Dutch drafts player and extremely strong, world number 5 or 6. And he's come into chess recently. And anyway, Jan has just been kicked off because he didn't have a board four, so that's immediate 2 points. Okay, let's load up these games. Here. So it looks like Pascal hasn't made his first move against 1d4. Ollie has played 1e4 and his opponent hasn't made a move yet. And let's stick with Timo for a second here. He played a very impressive game the other day against, I can't remember which side now. Let's just make sure you can see my face there. Yeah, okay. And Timo is playing against the Grand Prix attack here. There's some weird version though, because normally you go knight c3 first to avoid d5 immediately. However, Timo hasn't gone d5. So this is some strange variation where his opponent has played bishop to c4. And I have to say, I don't know anything about this. However, I suppose he might be arguing that he wants to put his knight on d2 rather than c3. However, that seems a bit odd because the d5 square is a square his knight might want to go to at some point. And he might want to also try and stop his opponent from playing d5, which is always strong in the Sicilian. So anyway, we'll come back to this and see what Kaki has in mind. Let's see if the other games are underway. Yep, so we have lift off on board one. Pascal is playing a semi-Slav here. And user DJ1 has gone for a bishop g5 setup with e3 and c4. This is all fairly standard stuff. Pascal's going to want to play bishop b7, followed by knight b to d7, castles, and then eventually sort of take on c4, and then push c5. It's important in a lot of these positions to only take on c4 after his opponent's already moved his bishop once, because he's going to want to develop this bishop, right? And you might as well make him move twice to develop his pawn. Whereas if Pascal takes now, the bishop can move there all in one go. So yeah, Pascal holds off on that for a bit. His opponent's played b4, which to me just looks like a hanging pawn. I'm not sure what's going on here. I don't know why Pascal's not taking it. Go on, Pascal. For KCL. No? Okay. Anyway, let's have a look at board 2. Ollie has got a very nice Sicilian already. Let's see how we got here. So he went for a c3 Sicilian, and usually in the c3 Sicilian, what black wants to do is either push knight f6, which is the Alapin, and then after e5, knight d5, d4. We have a tabia, a starting position from which lots of other positions can arise. But the opponent plays knight c6, and then after d4, Ollie's just been given a centre for free, which is very easy to defend and very difficult for his opponent to attack. I don't like bishop b5 very much because his opponent wants to push a6 anyway. And instead, this bishop, he doesn't want to take the knight because this bishop's actually very strong. So maybe bishop e2 or bishop d3 was better. However, saying that, his opponent actually blundered because here, Ollie had d5, just winning a piece because after e takes, d takes, the knight can't take because this knight is defending the square and this knight's pinned to the king, so he's just winning a piece. Maybe he can play a6, but then at the very least, Ollie can play bishop takes, knight, pawn takes, knight, pawn takes. He's up a very healthy pawn. Anyway, we'll come back to this. Here, his opponent's dark squares look very weak, so I very much like Ollie's position here, having played all of these pawn moves on light squares. So maybe queen d2 and trade the dark square bishops. Okay, let's see how Timo's getting on. Timo has quite a strange position. How did we get here? So e6. He pushes e5 instantly, which is interesting. I think here... I think here, maybe the best move was to play knight f to d7, with the idea that actually you want white to take this pawn so you can develop the bishop in one go. And if he doesn't take, then you're applying a lot of pressure to this pawn because this knight's pinned and this knight's now attacking it. Anyway, we've now reached this position. There's knight d7 a bit later, which isn't as strong now because he didn't give his opponent the chance to take on d6, but it's still good. And I quite like Timo's position here because a lot of pressure against e5. Helped by this bishop, which in a lot of these structures is often trapped here, and you have to play a6, b5, and then bishop b7. So yeah, we'll see how Timo gets on, but I like his position early up. Okay, so Pascal, his opponent played knight e5, and Pascal took, which makes some sense. Knight d7 makes sense, bishop takes, queen takes, yeah, and then f4. Yeah, and I like this from Pascal, actually. He's saying, well, his opponent has a nice, strong pawn structure here, but he's playing a little bit on the wing. And so what Pascal's going to do is just blow open the centre while his pieces look a bit funny here, potentially lined up, you know, with his rooks. So he's going to blow open the centre. This looks nice for Pascal. Okay. This is very sharp, what's going on here. Yeah, I don't like this from Pascal. f6 looks very weak. Here, I think, unless I'm missing something obvious, Pascal can just... because then this hangs here. Okay. This is what Pascal should have done. He should have taken here, takes here, and then takes here. And the point is you open up the attack on the bishop here. So white has to respond to that by dropping the bishop back, and then you do just win this pawn, right? But Pascal instead plays f6, which is very weakening because I know it makes sense to try and undermine this pawn here, but these light squares around the king are starting to look very dodgy. So white immediately pounces on that, and Pascal closes up the light squares, which makes some sense. But I would be scared here, if I was Pascal, about things like this, right? And then pushing g4, because it's very hard to get these pieces over to defend the king side. But we'll see what happens, because Pascal also has some play on the queen side. So anyway, we'll come back to that. So have a look at Ollie. Oh wow, this is something's happened quickly here. So Ollie pounces on these dark squares, which makes a lot of sense. This is nice and instructive from Ollie, actually. I like this. So he goes bishop takes, and the idea here is that this knight here is controlling these dark squares. So Ollie just gets rid of it there, and then he pushes e5, further cementing his grip on the dark squares like this. Unfortunately, he doesn't actually win the piece because he can trade queens. Yep, like this. And then after knight back, knight in, knight takes, knight. Although Ollie is down a pawn here, I actually quite like his position, and let me explain why. Because I think this bishop is incredibly bad, and what Ollie can play here is this move. And then after trades, check, white can come back here. And this bishop's very hard to develop. You might develop it out here, but then you're just going to play rook across. And one of these pawns, I think, might be falling. And after something like b6, b3 even, these pawns are hard to attack. So it's probably equal here. But when it's equal and you're down a pawn, that tends to imply you have some sort of pressure. So I like this. I'm not going to turn the engine on because well, we're not going to learn much from the engine. Anyone can switch an engine on. Okay, so this is immediately... Okay, so this is a very nice move. So I didn't see this. So Timo goes straight in here, taking advantage of this pin and attacking the queen. And after queen here, Timo just wins the rook. Look at that. Fantastic. I don't think it's necessary to take here, but it's also not. But I'll tell you what his plan is. After takes with the pawn, he has this check. Because this knight doesn't cover this square, so that's nice. So he's forced to... Okay, but he doesn't take advantage of that yet. But he's threatening in it now. However, I quite like queen in immediately here. And then after bishop back, you can just trade queens. And first of all, you're going to destroy black's pawn structure like this. And then second of all, you'll just up the exchange at the very least. You might even be able to escape with this knight somehow. And so to trade down all these pieces is just going to go into a winning endgame. So I like this. However, bishop e7 also makes sense. He says, I want to keep pieces on the board. So he's threatening this now, and after bishop takes, yeah, he goes there first. So now one thing to note as black here is that you have to spend a move. White has to spend a move taking this knight back on a1. And so Timo might be able to use that to his advantage somehow. Let's see. Perhaps even something simple here might just be to castle. And then just to push f6 and say that this rook's going to be on the same file as your king. And this pawn here doesn't matter too much. But you can also just defend it by playing, well, let's say castles here, rook takes, knight here, kicking this bishop. And then if this bishop drops back to here, then you have queen check, queen takes, pawn takes. And that position is really good because you still have f6 coming. You have the knight square on d5 for your knight. And you traded queens. And you're up the exchange. So I think that's winning. Let's see if he goes for that. Okay, Pascal, meanwhile, is, I think, for a minute, I didn't see this queen was hanging and I thought this position is hopeless. However, I think if you take here, oh, that's interesting. I quite liked takes first, then, sorry, I quite liked takes first, then take, then rook across, because you can't defend this pawn. However, Pascal does it this way, which I don't like as much, because after pawn takes, well, let's say he sacks the queens. Let's say here, here, here. The difference here is that this pawn can be defended. There's actually probably a strength, because a rook comes to d1, and the knight can come into, the knight can come into b5 and then into c7, and this looks a bit dodgy. So I'm not sure I'm a particular fan of Pascal's position here, and I also don't understand why he's spending any time thinking about taking back the queen here. Maybe he's having a sip of coffee, or he's gone to the bathroom. But after takes, I'll be pretty happy as black here. Yeah, rook d1. Yeah, let's see if he plays this. Another idea in this position is to push e4 to try and give this square to one of your pieces, because that's a really nice square for your piece. You could push e4, f takes, bishop takes. No, sorry, going mad. Bishop takes, and then after bishop takes, knight takes. This knight is defending this pawn, and it's very hard to challenge this knight. But after knight f6, you're just going to trade, and then you're going to bring the other rook across, and this is really, really nice for white. Okay, so Pascal's in a bit of trouble here. Meanwhile, Ollie's done something bad here. Yeah, so Ollie, what he does, he sees his pawn is attacked, but doesn't see that he can actually defend it like this and take control of these dark squares. Instead, he drops back, and now the difference between these two moves is that black now has the bishop pair. He hasn't traded one of the bishops. His dark squares aren't as weak because black has the dark square bishop, and he's just gonna win. He's up a pawn. He's up the two bishops. This looks extremely strong. Yeah. So he attacks the rook, and then he plays the rook out the way. Rook across, and then g4, which also looks really ugly. I guess his idea is to try and stop f5, but he can play f5 anyway. So ouch. Yeah, g4, you're going to get, at some point, you can imagine something like this happening, right? So you play g4, you're going to play bishop here and to here, and then this bishop is going to slice all the way down this diagonal, and suddenly it looks like you've made a luft for your king, but actually you haven't, because this bishop covers this square, and you might get back rank mated. And at the very least, this bishop is an absolute monster which can't be opposed on d5. because white doesn't have a light square bishop. Yeah, so he goes f5 anyway, saying that, haha, your move didn't actually stop f5, which is fine, because you can always do all this stuff afterwards. And it makes some sort of sense, actually, because after takes, yeah, although I don't think he should have taken here. I think he should say, I'm happy if you take, because this pawn's weak, and this pawn's weak, so maybe he should just move his knight out of the way to somewhere like here. You know? But he takes back the f pawn, and now this structure's really strong, you know? And it, yeah, so trades, and then here, I think just coming here is fine, because even if you play the rook in, you're then going to play bishop back, and this rook's actually almost trapped in a lot of lines, right? And it's not doing much. Okay, so have a look at Timo's position. Timo won his first game. Let's see how he converted that. Fantastic. Okay, so this is where we left it. Here, bishop e7, bishop back. And he just plays very simply. He plays a6, saying that I want to push b5, and because you've got your knight on a3, excuse me, you can't push a4, which often you push to stop b5, and so, and then this all collapses, because this was the point I was going to make, was that after queen takes, rook across, which I presume he plays, yeah, and then after there, everything collapses, because you win this pawn with check. Very nice game from Timo. And his opponent just resigned here, trusting in Timo's ability. So, the beginning of this game here, we have a Ponziani. Wow. Okay, so we have here. The Ponziani is the move c3 on move 3, which is not I once looked at, but I've forgotten everything about. And there's some really sharp lines here. I think the main move is this, right? Attacking this pawn. And then there's some really crazy stuff with pushing d4. And I think it's sort of a forced draw, but anyway. So yeah, he pushes here. Yeah, there we go. It happened exactly what I said. And yeah, this doesn't seem critical. I think here... Oh, the engine's on. Let's turn that off. Yeah, here the point is to take, right? And then maybe here? I'm not sure. Anyway, we get this position, and white's just better, right? Because... it's easy for white to develop, and black's king can't castle. So he takes. Ooh, what is going on here? Okay, well, my instinct about this, first of all, is that black and white are doing exactly the same thing. They're taking a knight, then a pawn, and then a rook. But the difference is white's doing it first, which means that white's going to have more options of what to do afterwards. It can't be bad. This is quite nice. So, what's Timo's point if black goes here? He's just going to take and take. I'm not so convinced about this, because this pawn is quite difficult to defend, because you don't really want to push b3 because this structure looks a bit dodgy. Whereas this pawn's very easy to defend because g6 is very solid. So what I would have rathered here is takes, and then take, and then okay, I can't put it on the board, but taking here, and then so taking here, and then this pawn is hanging. So you just play knight d2. Remember, it's defended also by the bishop on here. And this bishop looks like it might get trapped. My instinct tells me after something like king e2, f3, king f2, something like that. Maybe b3, bishop out, and this rook attacks the bishop, right? Anyway, what has happened in the game is this, which also makes some sort of sense, but my question here is, can't Timo's opponent just take this pawn on b2? I think he can. I think this might be a blunder, because he can take, and yes, he gives him the double pawns here, and he opens the file for his rook, but that's not such a bad thing, because actually this g-pawn was weakness here, and now it's off the half-open file, so it's a lot harder to attack on f6. Further strengthens e5. Yeah, I think this is a mistake. His opponent should play here. He wins the second rank, and now I would say Timo's opponent is actually better in this position. So he's going to be up material, and his rook's in a very nice place, but instead he gives Timo a chance. Now here's a nice example of bishop versus knight. So you might want to play takes, takes, and then b3. Put all your pawns on light squares, play your knight into c3 and then into d5 or something. And this bishop, because it's on a dark square, it's really hemmed in by its own pawns here. And this nice knight can jump around completely unopposed. It'd be interesting to see that. It'd be very instructive. Let's see if Timo goes for it. Anyway, let's get back to Pascal. We haven't seen him in a while. And this is really heated up. Let's see what's going on. So where did we get to last time? Yeah, so we got here, takes, and Pascal's done very well in this position, I think, because this looked really dodgy. So he played knight in first. I suggested rook d1 just to maintain the idea of e4. But instead he plays this, and this is not bad. Pascal steps out the way. Now, if this move was to get off a light square, then I think the best way of doing that would have been coming into here, right? Because this king can be nice and centralized, he can help push e5, all this sort of nice stuff. Potentially even in some situations where pieces are traded, be close enough to this pawn to stop it. However, as we saw from the game, Pascal wants to make these slightly more obvious threats of, as we get there, some shuffling around, he wants to double on this file. But I do not think this is a good move at all. This is a good plan because this pawn is extremely easy to defend. You can't push this f pawn to help. You can't push this h pawn to help. And these rooks just defend it, right? Even though this bishop is attacking it, it's also already defended by 3 pieces, and this bishop's just going to get traded anyway. And now these pawns just run, and Pascal is going down here. These pawns are really hard to stop because this knight's an absolute monster. You don't really have time to attack it, right? This pawn goes, and then you're going to trade bishops maybe, bring a rook across. Yeah, this is game over, I would say. Yes, I don't like what perhaps Pascal should have done instead in this position after knight b4 is first of all just kick it and say that this square might be really strong for your knight, but he's getting that square anyway, and you might find that you can undermine it in some way. So I say that, and I'm going to have to try and work out how now. But the point is this knight doesn't actually have any squares from here. It can't go here, can't go here. It can take this, but this is why you just want to play. Oh, here we go. So you go here, 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 and now the knight has no squares from here, right? Yeah, and if in any way you can ever take this pawn, even if you like sack it for this knight, if you imagine some crazy knight maneuver where you can sack it and he takes back with a rook, then this knight hangs. Okay, so I think here this would have been a better plan, but instead Pascal's gone for this, and it looks like he's completely busted because. It's important not to take this pawn here because then this happens and suddenly Pascal gets a lot of counterplay. Although I'm sure even this is fine. Maybe not actually. But I think just rook here. Defend this pawn and say these other pawns are running. You know, it doesn't matter if you play slowly here. It's very important this knight doesn't get this square. You might think, oh, I can maybe push this and cripple black's pawn structure, but after push, black's just going to play knight e3 first. Ooh, this looks bad. Ooh, this is interesting. His opponent's made a mistake here. So now, as far as I can tell, it's impossible to defend that pawn because if rook backs, you win the exchange. Yeah, but now you can just take. I mean, this might still be winning for white based off these pawns, right? But he's given black a lot of counterplay because that king is going to the corner. So Pascal take, do it. So takes, then king goes to the corner. Let's stick with this game now because this is kind of interesting. Oh, these ones are heating up as well. Oh my goodness. Yeah, but he's just busted here. He's winning a piece or something. Okay, let's keep with Pascal, see what happens. Because this is getting low on time and quite an exciting position. Meanwhile, I'm going to have some tea while Pascal does some thinking. Oh, Pascal, what have you done? No. I mean, you might be losing anyway, but you have to go for some of these mating ideas. Oh, that's tragic. Okay. And now he just trades and... Oh, this is bad because now you have no pressure here anymore. I mean, if you play... Oh, dear. Yeah, this is running. This is going to lose. Pascal. And the point is, this rook is going to be really strong over here because it still defends this square and it helps this pawn. And this pawn here is defended by this knight, which is impossible to attack because this pawn's here, right? So he just plays here, but you can just push. And then the point is, you can't go here to attack it again because, uh-oh, that is going to be a queen. Yeah, so Pascal has to go back. And now I think the best move is to play here first, kick the knight once so you have access to this square. Or does this also work? I don't know why I missed this. Yeah, this is game over because you're pushing here, and yeah, you have to sack the rook for the pawn, and that's no good. Pascal's going down. He missed his opportunity here to play. Well, let's just stick to the end of the game in case I miss something really. Yeah, this is going to be gone. But let's go back to where Pascal had a chance here and put some moves on the board. So takes, king in the corner. And this is so close to mate. Maybe an idea is to come at that point back with the rook if you can visualize all this, and then the only way to defend this pawn is by making king up, so you can just play back and that's a perpetual. Or you leave the king here and you get a check. King here. Yeah, and there's so much counterplay. This H pawn is quick. I mean, man, Pascal really missed out on an opportunity here. Yeah, he's just busted. Let's see. Oh, let's see how Ollie is doing. Oh my goodness, this is crazy. Oh, Ollie's now winning. I mean, I have to say I cheated because the engine's on, but let's turn that off. What is going on? This pawn's just queening. This. You block the rook's attack to here. Okay, he goes for the check. That doesn't seem right because this king wants to come down the board anyway, but I think Ollie's panicking under a bit of time pressure here. Uh-oh, he's going for the check. This is a bad sign. This shows he's struggling. Uh-oh, and now this... Oh dear. This is coming in. And that is going to be pretty fatal. Ooh, okay. Now if trades, then Ollie has this move, which is really nice. So he can't trade. Yeah, this is a good move. Now, oh, rook across. I think you have to play here. Yep. But now here. Yeah, and he's got it. Wow, Ollie, that was you panicked me a bit there under time pressure when you were playing checks against his king, which is sort of a sign that you don't know what to do. But in the end, you came out. Very nice. And now he even doesn't even queen. He just takes the bishop. Lovely. And he's got one check here, and the king goes up. But that's it. Not only is he down a piece, but this pawn is also... Oh, this pawn is also queening. So that's going to be game over. Oh, just make sure he knows I'm here. Good games. Pascal is still fighting, but he somehow managed to win back a piece. So his opponent, a la Ollie, tries to get some checks in because he doesn't know what to do in time pressure, and instead ends up trapping his own knight. Lovely. Now this is obviously completely winning for his opponent, but his opponent's blundered once and it's time pressure, so let's see what can happen. If his opponent pushes now, yeah, sadly he picks up this pawn. But if he could defend this pawn in time, that H pawn versus king is a draw. But this isn't always that easy to win, so let's just see what happens. Sometimes there's some stalemate ideas. You never know what can happen at this level. Haven't gone to Timo in a while. I promised to go back to him, but he looks like he's doing well. Yeah, Ollie wins. Okay, let's see if there's any stalemate ideas. So you want to keep the king around the corner where you've got less moves. The idea in the position is to give yourself less moves than normal. So you've got to go here. Yep, here. Ah, that's going to be it. Yeah. Yeah, and here. And then takes, and then queen. Good games. Well done, Ollie's opponent. Pascal's opponent, even. Okay, let's go back to Timo, who won his first game and is now... Oh, this is a nice one to go to. Timo is down on time, but he has a really nice position. And oh, did he go for the bishop versus knight I was talking about? That would be so... I'd be so happy if that happened. He did! He went for the bishop versus knight. Look at that. Oh, but he gave up this pawn in the process, which he didn't need to do. He could have just pushed b3. But we still have this bishop versus knight. He didn't take the pawn because he defended it with the rook after... Wait, did I just miss something here? Okay, so his opponent wastes time doing this, and then Timo can defend laterally like this. So anyway, we have this bishop versus knight. Let's get to that position. And here, not only is white up a pawn, but let's imagine for a second that black has an extra pawn in this position. Let's plonk it, I don't know, over here or something. Then even here, the white's knight's really nice because it's very easy to put your pawns onto light squares, and his pawns are stuck on dark squares like here. I mean, that would be a draw, right? But this, but I'm not a fan of this. He just... Oh, I am a fan of this. This is so nice. Timo, you're ahead of me here. If he takes, then he has this. Boom. Winning the bishop with the fork. Man, this is too high level for me. But the only issue, yeah, now he steps back. It was a nice little trick, but I think positionally it's questionable. Because now, to defend this pawn, right, you're probably going to push a3. And then this pawn is stuck on a dark square. And even if you don't push a3 and you come here, then this pawn is stuck on this dark square, which means this bishop always has pressure against it. And I'm sure this is winning, but it means this bishop suddenly has a bit of life. Yeah, this is a nice move. So after takes, bishop takes, this pawn is looking very problematic. To the extent that I would consider coming back here, so that after takes, knight takes, then it's blocked, right? The bishop can no longer get to a3. But let's stick with this game because this is exciting. I like these technical endgames. Okay, so he does take. So bishop takes. Now how are you defending this pawn? Because after this, king here, you have check. That was nice. Let's try that. So we go king here, knight check. And he can't take, so he loses the bishop. And if he goes back, you trade, and you've got the outside pass pawn, and you're winning. So maybe this was the way to defend the pawn. And instead, he gives up the pawn and says that my king position is slightly better because we're going to come into d5. However, this is definitely a draw now. Whether it will... Well, what I should say is it's definitely equal. Whether it will be a draw is another matter. Maybe it wasn't a bad decision in time pressure to go for this, but I think the other line might have been very close to winning. So let's see what Timo does. Surely king e5, otherwise you just get this king coming back. But king e5, d5 looks like the only way to try for... I don't like this at all because after the bishop moves, then... Or not there, because that would be a... Wait, no, that's fine. Yeah, after the bishop moves, this king now can't come because he has to stay in contact with his knight. So I don't like this very much. I think king d5 was strong because then after here, it's very hard to defend these pawns. In fact, it might be impossible. It might even be winning. I'll go that far. We'll have to have a look at that properly. But instead, yeah, he just plays bishop back, and now here's the problem, right? You want to bring this king in to attack these pawns and this bishop, but it's connected to this knight, so now you've got to move the knight again, exactly. However, he's threatening the fork. He was threatening a little trick, but his opponent now stops the king coming in, stops the fork, and if knight here, then bishop back here, and this is this nice construction where this knight has no squares because the bishop covers them all. And now, if anyone's better, it's actually black, not only because of the clock, but because these pawns are disconnected, and this bishop's a bit better than this knight in these positions now. I can do a bit more. So let's go, yeah, bishop back here, and this knight has no squares, or no useful squares. Or he just does this, and this is going to be a draw now, though, if he takes. So how are the standings? Remember that we have an extra 2 points on bottom board, which I won't show here. We won 1, so we should be winning 2-1 now, and this will be a draw, so that'd be 2.5, 1.5. Let's stick with this to the end, and then we'll go back to Ollie and Pascal because because they've got more time on their clock. And, these king endgames are kind of interesting, and you never know what can happen. Here, the best move is probably to gain the opposition, like this. Maybe push here first. If one of the sides runs out of moves, George, if you're watching, I'll send this to you, is my student. I will, and a friend of mine. This is what we were looking at the other game about opposition and who has the opposition. So if you can imagine one of these positions where, say, like you go here and then here, yeah, here now, and then here. And these kind of positions, in some positions, you might find that the pawns get locked up and no one has a pawn move. And then if black plays here and it's white's move and white doesn't have any pawn moves, then black's going to gain the opposition. And you can imagine king having to go here, and then the black king comes in, or if the white king goes back, the black king comes in here. So this will be quite interesting to see what happens. Yeah, I think this is the best move. Taking away a move from white, making this pawn a permanent weakness here. It can't move and it's undefended. So imagine the black king can come in here like this. I know it can't now, obviously, but in some positions, yeah, this is what I said. And now it's quite hard to find the right move. I think you have to play here. But that might be a problem against this. Ooh, maybe Timo's doing well here, actually. Because what are you going to do about e5? Maybe after e5 you play... Ooh, no. This is too complicated for me. So yeah, so you're going to go... I wonder if you can play g5 here. Takes, 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 h5, h4. King... And the point here is, that's really nice. Yeah, because the king... This is the box. Again, George, if you're watching, remember we talked about the box. The king can't get into the box in one move because his own pawn on e4 is stopping it. But now this looks bad because you're going to take, and then king here, king here, king here, king here. And then if king comes around here, you go here. Takes, king here. You're all following this. And then king takes h5, you have king f5. And the king is trapped in the corner, and that's a draw. So he's going for this. This is the idea I said, but a move later. But I don't think this is as good because now you have this with check. What? What? Takes, king back. Oh, no, that's winning. That's winning. Let me show this. Takes, king back. Oh, sorry. Here. And a really important move here, this is a construction with these two pawns, is you can push here. And the point is this... Oh, we won the map. The point is this square and this square are blocked off. And this pawn runs. And then let's say king here. Then you go here. And this can't be taken. But let's go back even better. Sorry. Let's go here. And then this pawn can't be taken because this runs. So you keep running with this pawn here, and you just catch it. And the point is these pawns can never be taken because of this. And let's say you go back here, then you just come back up. And if you come here, you have the same construction again. These pieces are these you can't get to the pawn because of these squares are cut off. There's a Timo. Wait, who won? I'm going mad. I was talking about this whole thing, and it's actually Timo's opponent who resigned. So we won that game. I thought Timo had resigned. I was like, what is going on? But anyway, that was still instructive, and that's why he resigned, and his opponent realised that. Also here, it's important not to take here, because then this... Yeah, and this is a draw. So yeah, but his opponent realised that very quickly. I'm very impressed. Wow. Because there's a lot of tries here. Interesting. Okay. let's have a look at how the other games finished. So, oh wow, this is similar to Timo's first game where he gets the check on h4, right? So, let's have a look. I didn't see any of this. Right, so we went here, the Italian game. Then he plays check, which is really bad because you want to play c3 to help d4 anyway. Plays back here. I don't like this. If you're going to play here, right, trade this bishop when it comes back, or play here, so you pin the knight because he hasn't played h6 yet. But anyway, he plays bishop d2, castles, b4, bishop back, and then he plays bishop e3. So he could have just done this in one go, right? You could have just gone b4 here and then bishop e3, and you save a whole move. But never mind. Pascal does it like this. Ooh, this is nice. So you have to d5 looks very dodgy because after takes, Pascal does exactly this. And then after takes, I thought here there's some way of applying pressure. Maybe not. Okay. Yeah, Pascal's suffering here. I missed this actually. So yeah, here he can't take because the rook hangs. Comes back, g3. Yeah, this is busted. Pascal resigned. Never mind. That was a fairly poor showing, but I think in this position here, the position is really nice. So let's put some moves on the board. You want to go here, right? Here. Just go back. You don't want to push g5. That looks really dodgy. So you're just going to maybe castle, here, bishop, here, takes, bishop, back, and this kind of thing. And you know, you're going to play rook e1, followed by knight f1 to e3, which is really common in these structures. Come into f5, you're going to push d4, and the point is this bishop is doing absolutely boggle on a5. So he had a potentially really nice position here, but he bungled it a bit. Never mind. We we won the match overall, 6-2, remember, because we had a walkover on board 4. And then let's have a look at Ollie's game. Oh, he got a back rank, mate. This is beautiful. Okay, so we have another one of these knight f. Wait, we'll get to that in a second. So we have d4, e6, saying I'm happy to play the French if I want, but no, we have this, some sort of symmetrical kind of, I don't know, what is it, like a collie system if he plays c3? Yeah, something like this. I don't like c5, c4, because this is just going to get undermined, right? And what you really want is to apply pressure on this centre and always keep the tension if you can. White never wants to take because black just gets that in one move and develops the bishop. So c4 seems very premature to me. Yeah, he plays bishop back to c2. f4. This looks horribly ugly. I mean, I know it's some kind of sort of reverse stonewall, but in this position with the knight on d2, it looks really dodgy to me because this bishop is stuck behind these pawns. I mean, look at that. That poor bishop once had a life after, you know, you could even play e4 here, look. And then after e4, this pawn's undermined, this bishop comes to life. Oh, that would have been so nice. But instead, he plays f4 and kills any hope of any potential of his pieces. Bishop e7. He suddenly made Ollie's c4 look good, and it definitely wasn't good. So he castles, b5, Ollie's trying to justify his c4 move by playing a5, b4, all of that stuff, undermining his c3 pawn, getting a knight to this square like this, and further attacking this square. Let's see what happens. Knight in, take. Generally, you don't want to take this knight in these structures. Instead, I think it's better just to defend it. Because after you take, you kind of justify this f-pawn move again, because look, you move here, suddenly you have e4 again, it looks a lot more natural, this rook's opened up and these bishops are pointing towards this side. However, if you leave this knight here, and you just play like this, and you play knight back, and you play like f6, the knight's going to have to be traded, and suddenly, you know, this knight's done nothing, these pawns look really silly, this rook's doing nothing, this bishop's doing absolutely nothing. But instead, Ollie trades, takes with the f-pawn, and suddenly White's position is crushing, so we'll see how this is turned around, because now you're going to have to push g6, which I presume he does, and now these dark squares look weak. I mean, e4 does really want us to be played here, opening up this dark square bishop, and that looks monstrous, but let's see what he does. So after f5, which looks desperate, he takes en passant, and then here, please play e4 again. Man, I know this knight wants to come to e5, but just use it first to help this e4 move, because you really want this bishop to come to life, because after this bishop moves, this rook comes across as well, and this e6 pawn is always going to be weak, and this rook can help with that, right? Anyway, he doesn't. He comes in here, takes, and oh man. Is this forced? This is forced. Wow. So... so Ollie sets up this nice jab instead. You know what? If he'd pushed e4 earlier, he would have moved his bishop out of the way and this rook would have been defended. What did I say? Instead, his opponent plays here, takes, and this is... he can just... oh man, he can just move back or move his queen. But instead he allows mate there. Nice little back rank. Well done, Ollie. 2-0. Anyway, good games, KCLB. That's a very useful win. Our first win. KCLB's, wow, suddenly a thunderstorm outside. Crazy. Anyway, that's KCLB's first win of this round. We've done quite well in previous rounds, but not in this one. And yeah, good luck to them in the future. Well done, Pascal, Ollie, and Timo. And also Jan, lest we forget our board 4, who was down here, who didn't get a game but picked up 2 points for us. Anyway, till next time, bye for now.